this interest rate swap can be actualized by A, changing the interest rate profile. The interest rate profile has to do with the type of interest rate you have. Is it fixed or flexible? And this other part, B, has to do with changing the credit arbitrage. Okay, so I'll explain the two sub methods and we'll solve examples on it. Let's take a scenario. Maybe this is company A and this is company B. Okay, and then company A has a fixed interest rate 5%, right? And it has a variable interest rate of, let's say, LIBOR. You know, variable always carry LIBOR. It's variable that always carries LIBOR plus something or NIBOR plus something. Let's say LIBOR plus 3%, so high. But for company B, its own variable cost is like LIBOR plus 1%. Is low compared to this. Then B's fixed interest rate is like 10%, or let's say 8%. 8%, right? So in these two aspects now, B has a disadvantage of fixed interest rate. Can you see that? It has a disadvantage with his fixed interest rate. Comparing it to his colleague, they are both debtors. So the bank will look for the two of them and try and help them to arrange an interest rate swap, okay, or a changing of their credit arbitrage. So these two, among these two, B is disadvantaged because it could have been saving 3%. Now among these two, A is disadvantaged because it can be saving out. It could have been saving 2% on it. So can you see the total savings? The total savings is what? 5%. So is this 5% that the two of them will share into 2.5% and 2.5%? Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. It looks like child's play, right? But that's the thing. If you don't know this thing in the exam, or you don't know it, and most times if you're writing ICANN, you find it in section C. This kind of questions, they will give you like 5 marks. They're always in section C, and maybe the other part will be like 10 marks, right? Those 15 marks questions. And it's either you know it or you don't know it. Because even with investment appraisal, you can still write sales, you can still get some ticks. But this one, you either know it or you don't know it, okay? So this is the total savings that can be gotten upon this swap. So they will now share it. It is not specified that they should share it 50-50. They will specify how they should share it, maybe 30-20. But most of them, when they are silent about it, they will share it 50-50 and they will both swap successfully. So at the end of the day, that area where they are disadvantaged at, like this A, it is disadvantaged in its variable interest, and this B is disadvantaged in its fixed. Okay, so this area whereby they are disadvantaged at, that's what they are looking for. So they will swap upon the area where they are advantaged at, where they have advantage. Like this A, it has advantage in 5%, the fixed, right? And B has advantage in this aspect. So it's upon this that it will swap. And by the time it swap, A will now be advantaged in variable, and B will now be advantaged in its fixed. If you don't understand now, watch it again, you will get it. So let me give you like 3 steps, okay? There are 3 steps to changing the credit interest rate profile. So the first step is to what? Identify the current interest rate, okay? The second step is to receive, and then the next step is to pay, okay? CRP. The current interest rate, what you are receiving and what you are paying, right? So that is how to go about it. Now let's solve one question that can demonstrate it very well. So let me read this question for you, and they usually come in short. A company has a bank loan of £10 million on which it pays variable interest rates at LIBOR plus 1%. The loan has 5 more years to maturity. The company is worried about the risk that interest rates will soon rise, and it wants to set a limit on its interest cost. A bank quotes rates of 5.34% to 5.39% for a 5-year swap in sterling, that's in pounds, right? In which it pays LIBOR and receives fixed interest rate of 5.39%. What will be the effective interest rate? Can you see that? It's an interest rate swap. They don't need to tell you that, okay, there are 2 companies, A and B, they want to swap the way I demonstrated. It said a company has a bank loan of 10 million on which it pays variable interest rate. So the variable interest rate of that company, variable interest rate, is equal to what? LIBOR plus 1%. So the company is worried about the risk that interest will soon rise. And the company is very, very right, the company is very right to be worried, because this is an interest rate, and if LIBOR keeps rising, it will keep adding plus 1%. If LIBOR is 2% now, then it rises to 3%, 4%, their interest will keep rising, unlike if it's a fixed interest rate. So from here, you already know that this company is looking for a fixed interest rate. It wants to fix its interest rate, okay? And I told you in the beginning that a company will go for a fixed interest rate when interest rate is going high, and it will go for a variable when interest rates are dropping, so that even if it's dropping, it knows that its overall or its effective interest rate will be dropping. So I told you the steps, like you get the current interest rate, you will receive, and you will pay, okay? So I'm going to explain all of that. Interest rate swap, or maybe swap arrangements, any of that. So you put the current interest rate, okay? The current interest rate is the rate at which the company is disadvantaged, okay? The rate that they want to get rid of, and it is LIBOR plus 1. So you put it LIBOR plus 1%. I said the next step for you to do is to receive, right? Now receive what? Just know that it's to receive. You only receive what you are disadvantaged at. This is what they are paying normally. So it's like, bank, help us to clear it. Do you have another party that is ready to clear this one so that I can step into fixed? So you're going to pay fixed. So you are receiving what? Variable. Does it make sense? You are receiving variable from bank. Just write receive variable. No need to write receive variable from bank, because you're actually receiving from someone else, right? And it could also be from the bank. The bank could be the party. Then the next thing is what? You will pay. Right? Then the next thing is what? You will pay. I hope the way I'm explaining it makes sense, because I don't want to confuse you further. So you will pay what? You pay fixed interest. Here you receive variable interest. Okay? Now, what are you going to receive? You're not going to receive exactly L plus 1. Read your question. They said a bank quote rate of 5.34. This one is also very important. The bank is quoting 5.34% to 5.39% for anybody that wants to do 5-year swap in sterling, in which it pays, right? In which it pay, that is, in which the bank will pay LIBOR. They didn't say the bank will pay LIBOR plus. The company is one borrowing at LIBOR plus 1. They said the bank will pay LIBOR. Read your question. I'll put it on the screen. The bank will pay LIBOR, and the bank will receive. The bank will pay LIBOR, and the bank will receive what? Fixed interest rate of 5.39%. That is, the bank is receiving this. I don't even know why they gave us this when they can just tell us that the bank receives 5.39. But let me tell you something. These two, they are fixed rates. Whenever a customer is receiving fixed, you pick this rate on the left. This is called the ask rate or the offer rate. This is called the bid rate. I don't want to go into all of that, but sometimes they won't tell you directly. It's just that, imagine you have to decide between these two. Which one will you pick? How would you know? And this one is not about picking the higher, okay? You need to know what, sorry for that sound, you need to know what the customer is receiving, okay? So anytime the customer is paying fixed, this is the rate to pick. So it makes sense that the customer is paying fixed. And when you are paying to the bank. Can you see? If customer is paying, it means the bank is receiving. See, just calm down. I told you that when they give you two rates like this, you're not doing pick the higher or the lower like that one in front. This is interest rate swap. And these rates are fixed rates. You know, if it is variable rate, you have LIBOR plus some. They don't give you variable rates like this. These are fixed rates. So you ask that what is happening to the customer. I told you that you are the financial manager. And as a financial manager, you're on the side of the customer. You want to advise the customer right? So anytime the customer is receiving fixed, don't forget, receiving fixed, you pick the ask rate, the one on the left. You pick the ask rate, the one on the left. Anytime the customer is to pay fixed, you pick this one. Okay? So it doesn't matter which one is higher or lower. So let's leave these stories alone. Let's see what the question said. The question said that a bank quote rate of 5.34 to 5.39 for a 5-year swap in sterling, in which the bank will pay LIBOR. The bank will pay LIBOR. So let's take it here. If the bank is paying LIBOR, it means that the customer is receiving LIBOR, right? If bank is paying, it means customer is receiving now. So on the receive aspect, on the receiving step, you put your variable, and variable interest is LIBOR now. So they will receive LIBOR. And if a customer receives LIBOR, it means it is reducing his interest rate. They are trying to clear this one. We are clearing this one. We are not clearing the plus one. We are only clearing the LIBOR. That's the policy of the bank. So it said pay fixed interest rate. You know, the next step will be pay. So the next step will be pay, right? Fixed interest. So it means that this customer has delivered itself from this variable interest where it has disadvantage in its current interest rate, which happens to be a variable interest rate, right? So now it wants to enter into fixed interest rate. It has to pay fixed to the bank. And when it's paying fixed to the bank, it means the bank is receiving 5.39. So that's 5.39% that is paying, right? You're not putting this in bracket because you're trying to know payment. You're not putting this in brackets, okay? Because you're calculating payment. You know, when you are calculating payments, anything payments, if you are paying 500,000, you are paying 200,000. The day they tell you that you are not paying anything, no, you are receiving, you know, you less it, okay? So don't say anything you less could be a receipt when you are trying to offset something. I don't know if you understand that aspect. It's just like debit and credit. It's just like debit and credit. If something is a credit balance, normally, if you are reducing it, put it on the debit. Even if debit looks like receiving, doesn't make sense. So I said this is the current interest rate where the company has a disadvantage, L plus 1, right? That's the situation they are in right now. Now they have to receive variable from the bank, and luckily so that there's a bank that is ready to pay variable. It's paying at LIBOR. So once it pays, it reduces your situation. Then you now want to step into fixed, okay? So always remember this step. Current, what is your current situation? Current interest rate. Then you receive to clear the current situation, then you pay. Does it make sense? So what you do now is that you set off all of this together. You add it. So it means you have what? LIBOR plus 1 minus LIBOR plus 5.39. This will cancel this, right? Because LIBOR plus LIBOR will give you 0. Because LIBOR minus LIBOR will give you 0. And you have 1 plus this. So it means your effective interest rate is 6.39%. That's the answer. That is what will be the effective interest rate. That's the answer. 6.39%. And it makes sense because you are in LIBOR plus 1. They're able to set only LIBOR. So it remains this, right? So that's this question. See how I'm sweating. That's how to solve this question. Then I said the other aspect is what? Credit arbitrage. Okay, credit arbitrage. So the credit arbitrage is like what I described earlier. Okay, let's say you have company A and B, and then they both have fixed interest rates and variable interest rates. Let's say company A has an interest rate of 6% and company B has an interest rate of 8%. Let's say company A has a variable interest rate of L plus 2% and company B has LIBOR plus 1%. Can you see that? It means that their savings, okay, will be that A is saving 2. Because normally if it was taken as what his colleague is taking, it will be taken as 8%. So it happens to be saving 2% because of this. But here, right? But here you can see that it is B that is saving 1%, right? Because it is lower by 1%. So the total savings is 3%. Does it make sense? So if they want to share the total savings, they'll share it as 1.5% and 1.5%. Okay, let me say that in this credit arbitrage, the first thing you need to do is to get what? The first step is what? For you to evaluate the swap. Okay, evaluate the interest rate swap. That's what you are trying to know if it's beneficial. Is it beneficial? Because let's say both of them, they are not saving anything. It means you can't benefit 1.5%. So the first thing they'll ask you is that you should know whether the interest rate swap is beneficial. Then secondly, what is now the arrangement? That is the swap arrangement. How do you want to arrange them? How do you want to swap it? How do you want to actualize the swapping, right? So in this situation, once you already know the benefits, which is what we've gotten, that okay, A will benefit at 1.5% and B will benefit at 1.5%. Now they will benefit on their disadvantaged area. You understand? So if A is disadvantaged in this, it means that the interest will reduce. The benefit means that the interest will reduce by 1.5%. And if B is disadvantaged in this area, it means that the interest will reduce by 1.5. That's what it means, okay? You can't, an increase in interest rate is not a benefit. So it's deduction. So don't always see deduction as a negative thing. Sometimes a deduction in cost is a benefit, okay? So now let's go to the swap arrangement. Now the step for getting the swap arrangement is kind of similar to the changing of profile. This one is changing of arbitrage, okay? Changing of the credit rate arbitrage. Okay, so the first step is for you to get the current interest rate. The current interest rate. And I told you that the current interest rate is the rate at which the company is disadvantaged at. Like for A now, you put it like that, A and B. Okay, because there are always two companies involved. Do you understand? So you as a financial manager, you are trying to evaluate the swap. You have done that. You see that it can result to a benefit. Once the bank has brought the two companies together, you can see that there's a benefit. Now you want to see how the swap will be. Will I now get to a situation whereby company A will now have a better variable interest and company B will have a better fixed interest? Does it make sense? So first thing is to get the current interest. Where are they disadvantaged at? You look at it. A is disadvantaged in its variable interest, L plus 2%, right? You write it and you close it. That's what to do here. Then B is disadvantaged at its fixed interest. You write it and you close it. Do you know why you are writing and closing? So that when you are done with swapping, you can come and compare. Okay, you don't swap on top of your disadvantage. You can't bet on what you don't have. That's just what it means. So you now come and pick the advantaged area. Advantage interest rate. And that's what? For A, it is 6%. That's what you want to swap upon. 6%. Then for B, it is what? LIBOR plus 1. That's its variable interest, right? Variable. What happens to variable interest? Okay, so you ask yourself what happens to variable interest. That is, what will A do? What will B do? Then ask yourself what happens to fixed interest. Fixed interest. That is, what will A do and what will B do? Then you get the net. That's the effective interest rate. Okay, now to get all these what will happen to variable, what will happen to fixed, you need to go and do a working. Okay, when you practice more, you understand the steps better. Or if you watch this video like every morning for the next 3 days, this particular credit arbitrage, you understand, so that when you see it in exam, you'll be able to do it. And it's always like bonus questions, you understand? And it can also be critical because it's not a question. They are not questions that you can just use idea for. That's the way I see it. So you go to workings to know what is happening to the variable interest, right? So the first thing to do is to start for A. You start for A. You will say advantaged area must be equal to disadvantaged area. Does it make sense? Advantaged area. Because when you are trying to solve, that's what you are trying to do. Advantaged area must be equal to disadvantaged area. Okay? So the advantaged area for A is what? 6%. So you say 6% must be equal to the disadvantaged area, L plus 2%. The first thing you need to do is to actualize the savings. You know you have gotten a savings on the swap. You will minus 1.5%. Do you remember? So you now have 6% to now be equal to L plus 2% minus 1.5. That's L plus 0.5%, right? A revised disadvantaged area that is based on the savings, based on the benefits I can get. The fact that the swap is beneficial would remove me from a disadvantaged area, small, right? Now you want to balance these two. You want this side to be equal to this side, okay? So if L is here, L is on this side, you need to put L on this side now. And that will be what? Plus L. Does it make sense? Now you have 0.5 on this side. You have 6 on this side. And you want them to be the same thing. What do? Think about it. And it's the advantage side you want to touch. You don't want to go and touch the disadvantage side because you have touched the disadvantage side by the benefits. So because this person is getting some benefit that is relieving him of the disadvantage side, it must touch the advantage side. You need to, because it's a swap, you need to give something to get something, right? So if you have L here and L here, they're already equal to each other. You want 6% to be equal to 0.5%. It means you need to remove 5.5%. So this is what you are doing. Can you see? Plus L minus 5.5%. So these two now can be 0 equals to 0. If you do it, if you try to collect like terms, then the left side is now equal to the right hand side. Okay? So the next thing is to now look at what is happening here. I am saying that A has plus L minus 5.5%. So L is variable now. So because it has plus L, it means that A will pay variable. L means variable. It means that A will pay variable to B. So you write that here. Variable interest, that what? A pays B. Okay? A pays B. So under A, you go and write the L. The L that it is paying L, so it should increase a cost. Okay? So it means you have settled for the L. So the minus 5.5, this one means fixed interest. Anything that is not L is fixed interest. So minus 5.5% means that it does not have 5.5%, right? So it means that it is going to receive 5.5%. So under fixed, it means that what? B pays A, right? B pays A what? B pays A 5.5%. So you go and put it under B as what? 5.5%. You're not putting brackets there. It's only when you are receiving you are putting brackets because it's reducing the cost. Okay. So for B, you ask yourself, where is the advantage area here? L plus 1, right? L plus 1%. You want to make both to be the same thing. Now in the disadvantage area, the first thing is to effect the benefit. So you minus 1.5. So you have L plus 1 equals 6.5%. Okay. So now you need to make them the same thing, right? This is the disadvantage area, and the disadvantage area has been relieved. So now what are you taking from the advantage area? So since there is no L here, it means you need to remove the L here. So that would be L plus 1 minus L. Do you understand? So if you have 1 and you have 6.5, it means you need to add what? 5.5% to be able to have what is on this side at 6.5%. It means that at this point now, the left hand side is equal to the right hand side. Does it make sense? Let me go over it again with a different color of marker, right? So I said after you effect the benefit and it has reduced the disadvantage area, right? The disadvantage area feels at peace now. So you want to make sure that the left hand side is equal to the right hand side. Okay, so because you have, this is where you always do the effect on the advantage area. Do you understand? Just like here, we are adjusting upon our advantage area. Upon 6%, we have done it here. Okay, now upon this one, because L is here, you want to make it 0 equals 0. L is here, so it will be what? So it will be what? L plus 1, the normal L plus 1. You need to minus L. Is it showing? Right? You need to minus L, and then you need to add 5.5% so that it can be equal to 6.5%. Do you understand? If you try to collect like terms, L minus L, that would be 0. 1 plus 5%, that would be what? 6.5. You bring it to the other side to turn to minus 6.5%, and it can be 0 equals 0. So from here now, this was what you added. This was the effect you have done. So B is experiencing minus L. And when it is experiencing minus L, means it does not have L. It does not have variable. So it needs to receive variable. So you can see under variable, we said A pays B, which is normal. So it means that what? B receives from A, which makes sense. It confirms what you have written here, that B pays A. Definitely B will receive from A, and it will receive what? LIBOR, because it's saying it's showing negative of LIBOR. It means it does not have LIBOR. So the swap arrangement, what is actually happening is that it is receiving LIBOR, and when it receives LIBOR, it should reduce. Okay, then the next thing is that you have plus 5.5. It means that B has fixed. Under fixed, it means that B must pay A fixed what it has. Do you understand? It has fixed. Okay, so plus 5.5 means that it has fixed already, so it needs to pay it. Okay, just try and master it. So look at under fixed. You have already written B pays A, and you even got that under A. Now you need to write what? A receives from B. A receives from B what? Fixed. And when A is receiving fixed of 5.5, it means you should have what? 5.5% negative, that is reducing its payments. Then you can now cast this. So look at now, when you cast this, 6 plus L minus 5.5%, what would that give you? That is 6 minus 5.5%. That will give you 0.5%. Then you still have your L. So your L plus 0.5%. Does it make sense? Then here you have L plus 1 minus L plus, that will be L minus L. That's 0. So you are left with 1 plus 5.5, and that will give you what? 6.5%. Can you see this is the effective interest rate? Is it clear? So you have L plus 0.5% and you have 6.5%. Now you look at, compare it to this. Look at where A was disadvantaged. A was disadvantaged as L plus 2%. Now it has swapped, and because of that, it is now what? L plus 0.5%, right? Now B that was disadvantaged as 8%, it has swapped and it is now 6.5%, right? And it just makes sense. We don't even have to have done all this explanation. It just makes sense that you say disadvantaged area minus the benefits, right? 1.5%, and you have your L plus 0.5%. minus the benefits that they are getting on the swap from the disadvantaged area. 8, that is 8 minus 1.5%, and you get your 6.5%, right? But this is when they're asking you to show the swap arrangements, you need to know this, and this is also going to help you to confirm if your answer is correct. Okay, so the first thing I said is to get the benefit of your swap. Is it beneficial? Yeah, we can start. We can save 1.5. We can adjust by 1.5%. You will apply it on the disadvantaged area. After you do that, you try and balance the two sides, okay? And you put your balancing on the left, on the advantaged area, because you are trying to touch the advantaged area. You are trying to shake the advantaged area. Do you understand? So that's why you have 6% here and L plus 1% here. Then whatever effect you put it here, you can see they are paying L in this place because they have L, and because it does not have 5.5, it is receiving 5.5. On the aspect of B, because B does not have L, it is receiving L, and when it is receiving L, it means it is reducing, so you put it in negative, it is reducing its interest. And on this aspect where it has 5.5, it will pay 5.5. Do you understand? And then you cast, and then you get the difference. So this means showing the swap arrangement. If they ask you in a question that you show the swap arrangement, this is how to show it. So in the next class, we'll move to interest rate features and options on interest rate features by God's grace. Thank you so much for watching. Please share this video with somebody, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next class. Bye.